98.7 The Coast, WCZT, Villas, Ocean City, Cape May.
The opinions expressed on the following program are strictly those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of WCZT, regional media, coastal broadcasting, personnel, or advertisers.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Guest interviews include entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Be sure to listen up. This is important because it's your money. Your money. Be sure to listen to Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie. Wednesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on 98.7 The Coast.
Money Talk with Melanie is brought to you by the TaxMama, Eva Rosenberg. Visit TaxMama.com.
And welcome to another live edition of Money Talk with Melanie, broadcasting live from beautiful Wildwood, New Jersey. I'm your host, Melanie Collette. And this evening, we will have consumer banking expert and financial coach Bill Westrom dive into the murky world of personal finance to show you how you can achieve financial wellness even in the toughest of times. And in hour two, we're joined by attorney Peter Ticktin, founder and managing partner of Ticktin Law Group, to unravel the complexities of the Trump Indictment. Two truths at the same time. I'm interested in hearing what they are. I have my truth. I think there's only one truth. It's called the truth, but we shall see about that. But in the meantime, I was just telling the producer here that I'm going to do something a tiny bit different, see how it works. If it doesn't work, if it stinks, then I'll do something different next week. But I decided I was subbing for a show this week, and the host does a monologue at the beginning. I was like, I wonder how that will work for my show. So I'm going to try that. So I got one for tonight's show to see how well it works. And I thought I would address, particularly since we're going to be talking about this in the second hour, I thought I would address the elephant in the room, whether or not Trump's indictment is going to help or hurt his reelection campaign. And it's interesting. He was asked last night on a show whether or not he would quit, even if, he got convicted or something like that happened. And he said he would never drop out under any circumstance. So I thought that was very interesting. And, Trump's legal woes, they continue to mount outside of what just happened in Manhattan. The prosecutors trying to get him for financial crimes committed while he was still a private citizen. Some analysts have speculated that it could hurt his chances for re-election in 2024. However, others argue the opposite may be true, that Trump's indictment might actually help his campaign by energizing his base and making him appear to be more sympathetic to the average voter. Sure. So what will really happen as an impact to Trump's indictment on his re-election campaign? Well, let's take a look. First, Trump has already benefited significantly from his indictment in terms of small dollar fundraising. His campaign has raised a record-breaking $82 million in the first half of 2021, and in another reported $4 to $8 million since the announcement of his first indictment. We can contribute much of this to donors who are responding to what they see as unfair treatment of the former president by the legal system. This suggests that Trump's base is not only loyal, but also willing to put their money where their mouth is in defending their chosen candidate. Next, while the influence of big dollar Republican donors to block Trump's candidacy has so far been unsuccessful, Joe Biden's larger campaign war chest could still prove helpful in the general election. It's easy to see why some within the GOP establishment would prefer to move away from Trump and toward a more moderate, mainstream candidate that appeals to a broader base of voters. However, this strategy could backfire if Trump supporters see this as an attempt to block him from winning the nomination, which could alienate many conservative voters who remain fiercely loyal to Trump. Now, If there's a large field of candidates that challenge Trump for the GOP nomination, it could be easier for him to win in the primary season with less than 40% of the vote. This is something similar to what happened in 2016. It's especially true if his opponents split the anti-Trump vote among themselves, allowing the former president to triumph with a relatively small number of votes. This is something that Trump himself has acknowledged, stating in a recent interview that he believes a crowded primary field could benefit his candidacy. Finally, while Nikki Haley has declared, and as recently as this morning, Tim Scott has started an exploratory committee to run for 2024, we also have in the mix former Vice President Mike Pence, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and other potential candidates weighing a primary run. Any challenger is going to have difficulty competing with attention when it comes to President Trump. It's unlikely that any other candidate could match his charisma or his ability to energize conservative voters in the same way that Trump does. Who else can do it like he does? So what does all this mean? While Trump's indictment certainly hurts his chances of winning the presidency again in 2024, there are also many reasons to believe that it could help his campaign. Trump's base remains fiercely loyal to him, and many voters may see any indictments as a sign that he is being unfairly targeted by the legal system. A crowded primary field could work in Trump's favor, while other candidates will struggle to compete with the former president's charisma and media savvy. Ultimately, only time will tell how Trump's legal troubles will impact his campaign, but he remains a force in American politics, and his supporters will be eager to follow him wherever he may go. Now, I hope that you enjoyed that little monologue. Let me know if you did or didn't at Money Talk Mel on Twitter or at Money Talk with Melanie on the Facey. You can certainly let me know if you enjoyed that rather than the news. But I will say this about Tim Scott. I've been a long time fan of Tim Scott. In my political circles, I've had a chance to meet him, speak with him. He's a really cool guy, and I'm really excited about his candidacy, his possible candidacy. I will hope to say probable. I saw in his announcement this morning, he said something that really interested me, and that really resonated. I should say, which is that my life proves their lies wrong. I said it wrong. You know what? Let me make sure. Let me look at it. See, I tried to remember exactly what it was, and I should never do anything from memory. This is why I write things down. No, my life proves their lives wrong. That's exactly what he said. And I thought to myself, I agree with you 150%, because a lot of the lies by the far left include things that say that people who look like Tim Scott, people who look like myself, cannot be successful in the United States of America because it's so racist. And I could not patently disagree more. Yes, there is still racism in the country, but to say that the racism is as steep as it was as back in 1960 or back in slave days, and that Black folks are prevented from living the American dream, I don't believe that. And I agree that it is a lie to control people. I don't like it at all. So I'm excited to see that there could possibly, maybe someday, be a President Tim Scott, now Senator Tim Scott. If you don't know who he is, if you're not familiar with him, take a look, check him out. He's a great guy. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie, and we'll be back with our guests in a few minutes.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Unemployed or underemployed? Have no fear, the TaxMama is here. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. It's your career on your schedule. Job opportunities are plentiful. TaxMama offers unlimited access to her tax mentoring portal with all the testing materials you need to overcome any test anxiety. Get your 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now to get your best career started today.
This is important because it's your money. Your money. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie. On 98.7 The Coast.
And welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. Our guest this first hour is consumer banking expert and financial coach Bill Westrom. He is going to dive into the murky world of personal finance to show listeners how they can achieve financial wellness even in the toughest of times. A bit about Bill. In 1966, Bill Westrom began his journey to revolutionize banking with an accidental foray into mortgage brokering. A mere 6 years later, in 2002, he created a unique financial strategy that gave American homeowners the chance to pay off their mortgages faster than ever before. Motivated by his mission for value-driven education and service, Bill spearheaded this revolutionary nameless concept into what is now known as credit line banking, or CLB. Credit line banking is now used as one of the many modern systems leverage strategies thanks to truth in equity. CLB users can now confidently take control of their finances, able to pay off their debt 4 times faster than traditional methods, and double contributions to 401ks with no external authorization. This pioneering system from founder Bill Westrom of Truth in Equity is making sure Americans have an equal chance at success in the financial arena. Without further ado, I welcome to the show Bill Westrom.
Hello there, Melanie. You want to be my copywriter?
Oh, did you like that?
Great. Oh, that was fantastic.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. I shrunk down the bio a smidge.
Yeah, well, you made it a lot better. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I can send it to you if you want to use it to send a brief bio. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a numbers guy, not so much a word guy. Listen, writing's hard. I'm just saying it is. It's hard. Well, listen, I'm glad to have you on the show, but seriously, I can send that to you. If you remind me, I'll send it to you.
Fantastic.
Just copy and paste it into an email. No big deal. So I'm glad that I have you on the show. You have a number of, you have a kind of really a diverse background, even though you have this CLB, which I'm very interested in. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to sign up on your website, which is great, by the way, truthinequity.com. Yeah, that's fantastic, and I think I'm going to sign up and see what's happening with Truth and Equity.
Fantastic. Well, before the end of the show, I'll kind of walk everybody through what they can expect once we get there. But we'll reserve that till the end of our segment here.
Excellent. I like it. I like it very much. So you have a few areas of expertise. One of the things that I really liked, it kind of wanted to tackle early, is common financial myths that lead consumers to unwise financial decisions. And selfishly, part of the reason why is because it's what I'm going to talk about at the beginning of my second hour. And actually, I'm going to give kind of like real examples of things that people have done, like, what do they call it? Clout chasing and bad investment decisions, and what led them to those areas. So I think that this will work well with some of the myths that you pointed out. For example, one of them that I saw that you said was myth 1: interest paid on conventional loans is front-loaded and compounded. Very interesting myth. And tell us what the truth is about that.
Okay. Yeah, that's a biggie. Now, before I get to the answer, if it's okay with you, I just want to set the stage
Absolutely.
a
Please
little
do.
bit with your audience because, we obviously all know we are in a very sensitive time in our country. And it's not so much the country, but everybody's sensitive as well. There's so much division. There's either right or wrong, black or white, good or bad. There's very little gray matter anymore. And so when we talk about personal finances, it's not a popular subject. People, I think they'd rather talk about the medications than their money. But I just want the listeners to know that I'm not being critical of anybody as a consumer. I'm being very critical of the results we get out of our banking and borrowing, and I critique the results of what we're doing to help people get a different perspective that they have an alternative to banking, and that's credit line banking. I'm not saying it's the best and the only and everybody's doing anything wrong. People just need to be aware they've got an alternative to get more out of what they're already doing, and that's really what we do.
And I think, that's a great idea. I've had experts on talking about a diverse array of experts on the show to talk about all different kinds of things as far as how to run your finances. And this is certainly something that we've tiptoed around, talking about just non-traditional ways of running your finances. And so I'm always interested to hear these things.
Excellent. Well, I got a brain full for you. But anyway, I've got 3 PhDs.
No, you don't.
In street smarts.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I'm not an academic. I've never spent a minute in the executive suite level of any bank. I've been a retail street level guy for 30 years. So I'm coming from the bottom, right? Because I've seen all the results from people over years and years. And the results today of traditional teachings, traditional practice, $16 trillion in debt, consumer debt. Melanie, do you know what it was 20 years ago?
What was it?
$8 trillion.
Oh, wow.
Now, why did our debt go from $8 trillion to $16 trillion? Well, over the last 12 years, we've seen sub 4% interest rates on everything, right? And so everybody was doing what they've been told. Low rate, low payment. Go consume. It's cheap money. Go, go, go.
Right. You're
and
right,
that's what
though.
We've done. Well, that's what we've done. Now, if we look at traditional practice, I'm a guy that starts at the very foundation of everything because that's the beginning of everything, just like the houses we live in. They didn't start at the top. It's all in the foundation. So if we look at the foundation of what we do as consumers and consumer banking, all right, what is our job as consumers? We're the distribution channel. That's it. We deposit and we make payments. That's consumer banking.
Right.
We make deposits and payments. Low rates, low payments. Budget, right? And then 401ks, right? Well, when you start getting into a 401k, now you're an investor. And now Americans are bad savers. Well, what's that? What's our 401k? Aren't we saving money for retirement? No, that's investing. You should have a savings account with 6 months emergency funds. I mean, you've heard it all, right?
Yep, indeed.
And you know what? We've been hearing the same stuff for 30 or 40 years. Because modern banking is ATM cards didn't come out until the 80s.
Oh, wow. You're right.
Right?
I'm dating myself, but you're right.
Well,
and I remember being so excited about that.
Yeah. Yes. Now I'm a baby boomer, born in 1964. My dad pulled out this plastic thing that's a diner's card. And I said, what is that? Oh, he says, I pay for dinner now. Somebody else pays for dinner now, and I'll pay for it later. I'm like, whoa. Next thing you know, he's got the big Visa card. This is the 70s. So everything we're doing is not brand new, right?
Right.
So all the advice and everything, let's look at the results. $16 trillion in debt. We got bankruptcies. We've got collections. We've got nothing but problems with the traditional model. And if you in the banking community, in 21, their profits were $249 billion. The banking community, $249 billion. Now, how did they get all that money? What was the root source of all those profits? Our deposits.
You're
That's
you're
what allows
you're
them to make
sure
all the
enough
money.
right about that. Yes,
Right?
you are.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Right?
yes.
Now, I'm not going to be critical of them. They're not evil, right? The guys running the banks today, they didn't invent any of this. They're just following all the rules that everybody else did,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I'm not going to vilify them for running a profitable model, but I will be critical of the results we get. We're the grease to the skids, but we get butt kiss. We don't get any more than $49 billion.
Right.
You realize they could give each one of us $1 million and still walk away with multi-billions of dollars out of those profits?
Okay.
They could, you know. So I had this discussion with everybody I get with on the phone, so they really understand the foundation of what we're doing. We earn a paycheck, and then we're told how to distribute it through the system by those that make the money, right? Because now let me ask you this question. Through all the time you spend in school, if you rate your financial education upon graduation on a scale of 1 to 10, what would it be?
Oh, it would be 0. No, not 0. Maybe I'll say 4. Like home ec did like a tiny bit, but you didn't have financial lit. And full disclosure, in my other life, I was a financial literacy teacher for 12 years.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, and I know what you were teaching: low rates, low payments, budget, stay away from credit cards, right?
Yep.
But how can any of us do this stuff in our society today? You can't. You can't live
It's
without
nearly
credit.
impossible. Right.
Impossible to live without credit, you know. But I've asked that same question when rating the financial education tens of thousands of people, and it's generally a 0 to a 2.
Right.
Now, if we take that poll for all those people, we can all admit that we graduated from school financially illiterate.
For sure.
Right? And then we go to the bankers and our mortgage people to get their expertise. Well, guess what? They went to the same schools we did.
Right, and they're also the ones on the receiving end of the profit. So,
right? Well, but when you go, hang on. The people we deal with at the bank, the lobby level people,
yes,
they have no idea what's going on at the executive suites.
True.
They have no training, financial training. I've been through it.
Yep.
As recently as 4 years ago. You get 1 week of federal stuff to keep yourself in the bank out of jail.
Right.
Then you have 2 to 3 weeks of intensive product training, because that's your job in the lobby, is sell menus off the item, or the items off the
menu. Right? Yes.
Right? There's no discussion on how things work, how to do the math. You can't find one banker in this country that can calculate the math on a mortgage. I guarantee you.
You're not wrong. And I'm just thinking, now they offer you like these online calculators, but you're absolutely right that there's no there isn't. Go ahead.
That segues into the first myth.
Right.
Okay. Front-loaded and compounded interest on a regular mortgage. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, first of all, if we break down a mortgage payment that has principal, interest, and escrows, taxes and insurance, okay, you send them that check, and then they divvy up the money.
Right.
The escrow goes to escrow account, interest goes into their pocket, and then the principal is applied towards the balance, right?
Right.
And when that balance falls, so does the interest cost. So in that division, in the basic math, there's no compounding of interest anywhere. There's no mathematical formula that dictates that interest is being added to interest. That's what the compounded interest would do on a debt side. You're paying interest on accrued interest.
Sure, right.
Well, it's mathematically impossible with the debt because it's always moving in the opposite direction. The interest never goes anywhere. It's not even applied to the loan. It's a cost for the month, and it goes into their pocket. That's it. And so you cannot compound interest on interest in a debt is illegal, usually, so it's not happening, can't happen, and mathematically it's impossible. Now, the front-loaded aspect, well, most people think, it's front-loaded because you're paying all the interest up front. Right. Well, you're right. You are paying more interest up front because that's when the balance is the biggest. Why, the same rules apply. Why are you paying less interest 20 years later when the balance is so much lower? Because it's all based on the balance.
Got it.
right?
Got it. Yep.
So that's why. And then front loaded also, because it's, all up on top. Well, we can't front load interest if we're paying interest in arrears, right? February's mortgage payment paid January's interest. March paid February. How can we pay July in April? We can't.
Right.
There's no front loaded. So it's all simple interest, right? You want to hear the magical formula of calculating mortgage interest?
Yes, I can't wait.
Okay, you ready? Balance times interest rate divided by 12. Dun, da, da, da.
That's
it.
what I thought it was, and but you know what? That's very bad.
Yeah, but so it's simple interest. So how can you calculate
Right.
front-loaded, amortized? It's not, and another
I
thing.
see what you're getting at. Yeah.
Interest is not amortized. It can't be amortized because it has nothing to do with the repayment of the loan.
Right.
The amortization dictates the principal portion on a monthly basis to pay off in 20 or 30 years.
Right.
So it's all so the real point here, Melanie, it's all sixth grade math. When it comes to same formula for vehicles, student loans, any loan will use that same formula. And then on revolving debt, it's simply the balance times the interest rate divided by 365 days multiplied by the days in the billing cycle.
Right.
Every debt.
Right.
So now why is this important to anybody that's listening? Well, for one, so you can reconcile your own statements and make sure you can keep your creditors honest.
And I used to teach that, but I only taught it once, and then I showed them how you could just go online and find a debt calculator. But I did tell them what the math was behind it. I don't think most kids really followed it, but
Well, and you know what? Why not? Because it's all rhetorical and it's meaningless.
Right.
Unless it's put to the test. Okay, so what does that mean?
Right.
Well, when I'm teaching, what that means is if you understand how the interest is calculated, you understand how to manipulate it.
Ah, and there you go. Now you're getting to the real point.
Now we're getting to the meat and potatoes, right?
Right.
So how do we manipulate it? Well, first of all, we need to understand the balance is what costs us the money.
Yes.
Because if you got a 15% credit card with a zero balance, how much interest do you pay? Zero.
Right.
15% doesn't scare you. But then we go swipe the card. Now we have a balance. Now we have interest.
Right. That's right.
Right?
Yes.
And so if we understand that the balance costs us the money, then we need to figure out a way to attack the balance.
Right. And how do you do that?
All right. Well, traditionally, how do you do it? You make a payment.
Right.
And since I'm talking about payments, one thing people need to understand, and definitely on 30-year mortgages or any loan, when they tell you what your payment is for how long, well, that's just the minimum, right? These people aren't gods. They're not authorities. They don't wear badges. They just say, here's the minimum you have to pay off in 7 years and keep your car. That's it.
Right.
They don't say you can't pay more. They can't tell you, they don't say anything, but make the minimum. And so if you look at a 30-year mortgage, if you want to pay that mortgage off in 15 years, make a 15-year payment. You don't need a schedule and some banker to tell you how to pay off a loan in 15 years. You just need them to calculate a 15-year payment for you.
That is very true. Yes.
And you're guaranteed to pay off in 15 years. So under that teaching, and the reason that's not taught is that's no good for the bank.
Right. True.
They make money by selling you a 15-year mortgage. Come on in, Melanie. Sure, we'll get you going.
Right. Make as small a payment as possible so we can keep tacking interest on.
And that's the biggest problem with financial literacy these days and dealing with all these people. And it's deception through omission. They're just not giving you the full Monty because it's not in their best interest because they lose money.
Right, for sure. That's true.
Anything in the consumer's best interest is going to cost somebody some money, and it's capitalism. Nobody's in the business to make less money.
Right. That's true. Very, very true. quite
Yeah,
the
and that's
fact.
why I work so hard at trying to educate people. And, I'm Toto, a Wizard of Oz. I'm pulling back the curtain and saying, wait a minute. You know?
Right. Watch how you do this. Be careful how you do this. And it's a little different than the I think of the Dave Ramsey method, which basically tells you don't ever don't ever charge anything or borrow money at all ever. which is not
Dave,
which is
Dave.
also I know. I mean I love Dave, but come on. Come on, Dave.
Well, I don't love Dave.
You don't? Why do you not love Dave? I think he's got some good stuff.
Well, he does, and everything he teaches works, right?
Right.
But not for grown adults. We're grown adults. We don't need to be living out of envelopes. We don't need to. Credit is a tool.
I talked about the envelope method
tool.
last week. That is a tried and true method. I did refer to it as old school because it is old school, but it does work.
It all works, exactly. But you understand the snowballing and the avalanching and the acceleration process, and even in my program, you have to throw more money at the debt. You can't get out of debt with low interest rates and low payments. That's just a perpetual debt.
That's absolutely true.
Right? You have to throw more money at it, and everything Dave teaches, that's the crux of it. Snowballing, okay, you pay one off and add it to the other. You're just throwing more money at the debt. That's the universal law.
Right.
Now, where I differ from everybody else is that I'm the first one to say that a checking account is our demise.
Ooh, now why do you say that?
There's no value. Right? Money needs to stay in motion, right? To earn more money, to produce value, it has to be in motion, right? Whether you're handing it across the counter, investing it, has to be moving to create value, right? Now, in our checking account, for us personally, it creates no value. It's there to distribute to get the things of value. Now, however, when our money goes into a checking account, what does the bank do with it? They put it in motion.
They do. They invest it in multiple, IULs and all kinds of mechanisms that are going to make them money.
All kinds of stuff. But the principle they're practicing is leverage. You have to leverage that income into an active environment to create value. Agreed?
Agreed. Yes.
Okay. Now here comes credit line banking. Right? Bankers leverage income for financial gain. We just agreed to that.
Excuse me one second. I am so sorry to cut you off. I think did I just blow through my commercial break? Oh my God. I'm rusty today. I apologize. But I just realized that my producer gave me the 1 minute signal like 10 minutes ago. But I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. And Mark is just sitting there like, okay, I guess we're not doing a break. I guess we're going to.
No, you better be apologizing to the advertisers.
She's just going to keep talking. She's just going to. I am so sorry. And I apologize to the audience. Sometimes this happens on live radio. But I just remembered, I saw the back of his paper because he usually uses a sign. And I'm like, oh my God, he gave me the 1 minute mark like 10 minutes ago. I'm still talking. Oh, dear.
Well, you know why that happened, Melanie, is because you've got such an exciting, enthralling guest today.
That's probably what it is. Bill Westrom. I'm going to go to a break right now so that we can pay for this. And we'll be right back with Money Talk with Melanie.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
What would you say if I told you becoming an IRS enrolled agent is just a keystroke away? It is, with the professional education provided by the TaxMama. Yes, the TaxMama offers both live and self-study tax courses to get your new lucrative career off the ground. It's your life, your schedule. Seize the opportunity to excel with the TaxMama. Right now, visit irsexams.school and discover your path towards becoming a respected tax professional. Tax law, tax practice, it's all covered, along with all of the study tools you need. The TaxMama is here for your new career. Visit irsexams.school and launch your career today.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Guest interviews include entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Be sure to listen up. This is important because it's your money. Your money. Be sure to listen to Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie. Wednesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on 98.7 The Coast.
Money Talk with Melanie is brought to you by the TaxMama, Eva Rosenberg. Visit TaxMama.com.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. We are on with Bill Westrom, and we're talking about money myths this evening, and we're talking about the money myth of paying off debt with low payments and low interest, as if that means anything. And we were just kind of peeling back the onion to discuss the reasons why it doesn't really mean much. But we just kept talking, even though the producer gave me the sign that we were getting ready to go to a break. I just uncharacteristically completely ignored him. Didn't mean to. It just happened.
We might have to do part 2 on this.
I may. Well, you know, I'm doing, I was very ambitious today. I covered a show for a good friend of mine who's on vacation with his wife, 25th year anniversary. And I was honored to cover his show. So I'm doing double duty today. Doing 3 hours of radio today.
Well, your producer said we don't have much time. So
yes, he's right.
I can just kind of take your show over for a second.
Please.
I want to give an example of credit line banking at a very low, easy to understand level, because we can do it at a much higher level.
I like it.
Now, a credit line banking, a credit line, the credit card, unsecured line of credit, HELOC. It's a revolving line of credit, which means we have a revolving door. We can get in and out at our leisure. Now, for sake of argument, let's say you had a $1,000 balance on a credit card, and you got a paycheck, and you can take $1,000 of your paycheck, spending money, and pay down the credit card to zero. You just eliminated all your interest immediately.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, you go use that card for spending. There's virtually no place you can't go without paying with a credit card.
Yes.
Right? Now, remember, you're not charged interest on purchases. You're charged interest if you don't pay back the purchase.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Now, let's say, for sake of argument, we spent $800 for the month in spending on the credit card.
Yes.
Okay. So we started at $1,000, paid it off, so we paid no interest, and our new balance is $800. We paid off $200 of debt just by flowing our income through that line of credit. And you do it the next month. The next month, you only have to give it $800. No more interest. You spend $600.
Gotcha. I got
right?
it. Yep.
Now you paid back $400 in 2 months just by changing the flow of the money. And that's what credit line banking is all about. Leverage your income for financial gain. Just do it on the debt side of the ledger. Maintain liquidity. You know, and this is the big difference between me and Dave. Dave just says, "Oh, give it away, and then hide." No, put it in motion. Don't give it away. Put it under your control. Get financial gain. 100% control of the money. You're lean, liquid, and independent at that stage. And I know it sounds controversial, and I know we only have a couple seconds left. The only thing I want
we have a few minutes. We're okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. The only thing I want your listeners to, the only thing I want anybody out there to say to themselves, I have to learn more. That's it. Because there's nothing to buy. There's nothing I'm going to sell you. I can only teach you what I know, help people understand it, and then it's my job to help people put it all together. Right?
Right.
And my service is about, I've got 30 years in this business. I know how everybody does. I know how everybody operates. Because we all live in the same country, following the same rules, using the same tool.
Right.
So what I do is I take each individual as an individual, and I can customize the whole program based on everybody's particular circumstance and position in life. So what I do is I help customize it. Well, first and foremost, I'll spend the time and make sure you're a good candidate. We go through kind of like a doctor's visit, analyze your numbers and run tests and make sure that you're a viable candidate. Because if you're not, then nobody's getting an invitation. But
now,
if you are,
what makes for a viable candidate, if you don't mind me asking? Can you expand on that?
Well, first, there comes lendability. If you don't have a line of credit, then you're going to have to be lendable to get one, which means decent credit score, 680 or above, decent income.
Okay.
And to be honest, that's about 80% of the population right there. 680 credit scores. Yeah. Fiscal responsibility, right? A lot of people, you have to be disciplined. I hate the word discipline. Hate it.
I know, because
we fail at it every day. Every one of us. It has.
It's true. It's
failure
true.
written all over it. So I use fiscal responsibility. Know the difference between wants and needs. Don't be living on a champagne lifestyle on a beer budget.
True. Okay.
And then, good stable income and the desire. You got to want something better for yourself. If you realize the results of what you're doing isn't good enough, desire, need, want, you just got to want it. And that's really it. Just be lendable. Now, if you already have a line of credit, then 9 out of 10 times you already have what we need. We can get going. And people with credit cards, I can help people with credit cards. Because, the strategy, it arrived here in the country by the Australians, 2002, as a homeowner only, pay off your mortgage only, first lien HELOC only strategy. It was a very niche market.
Right.
Well, because of the way I operate my business and provide the service that I do, the ongoing support and tracking of and managing progress, I've seen all the data. So what I've refined that Australian product to is a banking strategy that anybody that earns an income can implement. I don't care if you're 18-year-old with your first credit card, 65 with a $500,000 mortgage. Everybody can do this because we're just changing the flow of the money. No new products, no permissions from the banks. We're just changing the flow of the money.
I like the idea of getting away from the banks in earnest. I like that idea a lot. So how do you feel about, part of this has to do with diversity, right? Having diversity in the way you manage your money. How do you feel about other mechanisms? Because you said that you don't do, what I gather, you don't sell any kind of financial products like mutual funds or IULs. Nope. or any of those things. You simply go by the way in which a person's going to manage their money. You're basically teaching strategy.
Well, I'm teaching consumers how to bank like bankers. Because there's a whole, right? Consumer banking is just the distribution model. That's not real banking. So I'm bringing the executive suite strategies to the floor, to the lobby level. And some people you might be familiar with a sweep strategy or a sweep account that commercial banks offer, right? To where the bank will sweep money out of the general operating account, either into interest-bearing or activity or against a debt, right?
Right.
You're familiar with this.
Yes.
It's been going on for decades for businesses and commercial banks.
Right.
This is the same strategy. I'm just bringing that corporate finance strategy to consumers so they can put their money to work and get more out of the system. That's just the bottom line, because just changing the flow means you put the money in motion, and now you're reaping the rewards like everybody else at the top, just by leveraging your income for financial gain. And it's just happening on the debt side of the ledger, and it's the most important side because it's the most costly, and it's the one that causes bankruptcies and foreclosures.
Now you just said something right there. It's the most important side because it's the most costly, and you're right about that.
Yeah. Our financial woes have caused so many social ills. It's disgusting. Stress, depression, and it's all because people are panicked and freaked out about their money because they've only been told one way to do it, and it's just suffocating us, and I know I sound like I get a little, amped about it, and it's just because I'm passionate and my conviction of what can be done if we just change our model a little bit, because I've got 16 years worth of data. I know what it does. I can predict your future. If I know your numbers, Melanie, I can predict your future in 15 minutes. And if you do what I tell you, and if you do what I tell you to do, there's a 95% chance you're going to hit that date to the month, because I've done it hundreds of times.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. No, it really is. So tell people about your website. I saw when you go onto your website, you can, you put your information in, and then what happens after that?
Well, You have to engage with us.
Okay.
If you leave us your contact information, we're going to make attempts to contact you.
That makes sense.
And we hope that if you do it, and we're going to put in the effort, please talk to us, because it requires conversation. This is not a website where you go and get all the answers and figure everything out, and where people don't want to talk to you. Companies hide behind the internet. You can't talk to anybody. Well,
right.
We're a different company. I don't want to hide. I want to talk to people. I want to teach. I want them to understand what I'm doing. So go to the website. Here's the easiest thing to do. Go to the website, leave your contact number. When we reach out to you, please respond. Now, you can put in your financial information if you want. We've got an area you can put in your mortgages and your debt and all that.
Yeah.
But I tell people, if you don't want to do that and take the time, then don't, because I can do it a lot easier for you. If you get me on the phone and you have the stuff in front of you, I'll ask the questions. I'll fill it out. We'll get to know each other at the same time. I can, I've done these kind of calls, tens and tens of thousands of them. So to learn more, just go to the website, give us your contact info, and when we reach out to you, just give us the professional courtesy and respond.
That makes sense. I think a lot of people put stuff in, but I also think a lot of people just don't don't answer phone numbers that they don't know, and that's probably part of the issue.
Yeah. Well, or they can leave our contact info, or on our contact us page, you can find my personal account. You can find everybody's calendar, everybody's cell numbers. We don't hide.
Right, so that you could do a meeting or something like that.
Yeah, so we can get together. First, we're going to start with a 15, 20-minute initial call. Right?
Okay.
Let's just get to know each other a little bit. From there, we move into an online meeting to where we've got a very detailed system built to where we can get all your data, your budget data in, and it'll flow into an amortization table that I built specifically for this strategy in 2005. It's the only one of its kind, and you can only get it and see it through Truth and Equity. So when we were on our online meeting, we'll go through that amortization, and that's where I'm really teaching people how it works. Pull out your calculator, double check my work. This is how I got there. This is how we get here.
Oh, that's excellent.
Education. And that amortization table actually becomes the roadmap of your credit line banking life when we're operational. So what we see in our initial meeting becomes a living and breathing version as you move through the program.
Excellent. And tell them where to find this. Oh, he did give me the 1 minute mark about 45 seconds ago. So I'm going to do it right this time. And where can we find that?
truthinequity.com.
Thank you very much, Bill Westrom, for being on the show. We appreciate it. Keep on the lookout for the show download as a podcast so you can share this important information. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melanie. It's been great.
Yep. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
What good is being retired if you're bored or broke? It's time to establish a new lucrative career where you can work from home and help your family, friends, and community fix IRS tax problems, audits, and balances due. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. Get a 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now and get your new career started today.
Money Talk with Melanie features entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. If you missed the first hour, shame on you. You missed Bill Westrom, who is a consumer banking expert and financial coach. He is also the founder of truthinequity.com, and you should definitely hop onto his website and check that out for, I would categorize it as a non-traditional but fantastic way to run your money. To get details, you need to listen to the first hour of Money Talk with Melanie when it drops as a podcast here on 98.7 The Coast, or by following me on social media at Money Talk Mel on Twitter or at Money Talk with Melanie on the Facey. So, continuing with the second hour, by the way, in the second hour, our guest is going to be Peter Ticktin. I should have practiced that. Peter Ticktin. He is the founder and managing partner at the Ticktin Law Group, and he's going to unravel the complexities of the Trump indictment and talk about how there can be two truths at the same time. I plan to put that to the test. We'll see about that. See if I agree with his position on that or not. But it's the elephant in the room these days. It's pretty much all the media is talking about, which, whenever the media is really focused on something, you have to wonder what is really going on. Call me a cynic. I just wonder what is really going on when the media is so focused on one thing. But I digress. So usually at the beginning of the second hour, I talk about some personal finance issue or something like that. And so I'm going to continue that tradition. But I thought I'd share with you some information from an article that I found in the LA Times. I subscribe to like tons of information so that I can bring some great information to you. And this article I found is called Cars, Clout Chasing, and Kanye Merch. And it says people confess their most expensive money mistakes. So I just thought it was an interesting article. So I'm not just going to regale you with all the money mistakes that people have made, but I'm also going to kind of tell you what the alternative to doing such a thing might have been. There are several examples because, managing money is tough, right? For all of us. It's not uncommon for us to get excited about something, some new financial investment without knowing a whole lot about it. A friend might tell us about it. But a lot of times these investments could lead to financial ruin. FTX comes to mind. According to a survey, only 53% of Americans expect to be financially stable in 2023. That's pretty scary. This alarming figure reflects the lack of financial literacy that we have here in this country. So here are some real stories about those who failed to master their finances and what can we learn from them, which is the most important. So one example that I have is of the Howard brothers. They were so sure that their tech startup was going to be a success that they pulled their savings together and put $300,000 into it. But what was the problem? They received little investment interest from venture capitalists. And this is typical for startups that don't have a solid business plan or a unique product or service to offer. But the Howard brothers didn't stop there. There was one risk taker named Marcus who decided to take on multiple consulting gigs, hoping he'd earn back the money that he lost. Unfortunately, when crypto market crashed, Marcus was left with empty promises and a depleted bank account. So the lesson here is that taking risks isn't always worth it, especially if you don't have a solid plan in place. So learn from Marcus. Just because it's bright and shiny and new does not make it, awesome. Just saying. Now, on the other side of the coin, we have Miss Karen DeShields Moon, who moved to a new city and found herself doing what's called clout chasing. If you're on the social media, you've probably heard of this term before. She was buying clothes and accessories that she couldn't afford. And that was because, she had family members that had higher financial statuses than she did. Maybe it was around friends who had a higher financial status. And she wanted to do what they call keeping up with the Joneses. It took some time, but after a while, she figured out that the overspending was pushing her further into debt. And it wasn't worth the temporary pleasure of people being impressed. So she reevaluated her spending habits and became more responsible, more frugal so that she could stabilize her finances. And good on her for doing that. Then we have, this is really sad, Don Klosterman, who's a retired firefighter, trusted his stockbroker entirely and invested $150,000 in the stock market. However, when the economy took a downturn, he lost it all. Realized that his stockbroker was more interested in making money than looking out for his best interest. He ultimately learned that self-education is the key to making sound financial investments. That way you'll understand what the potential benefits and risks are in committing your hard-earned money. And this is very important. It reminds me of like Bernie Madoff and FTX, which I talked about a few minutes ago. You know, it's always a good idea to kind of look things up and understand what it is that you're investing in. So make sure that you do that. Make sure that you look it up, see what the risks are, you know, especially when somebody comes to you and they're super excited, or it's a so-called financial professional. Make sure that they know what they're talking about, see what their ratings are, all that good stuff, like you would do with anything else. This is one of my favorite. Lucas Plotkin was a huge Kanye fan, spent thousands on his merchandise. I never got that. I like certain celebrities and stuff. Okay. Michael Jackson excluded. Like anybody who knew me as a teenager was like, okay, ma'am, you had a whole wall with Michael Jackson on it. True. That's a true story. But I didn't spend thousands on his merchandise though. And things took a turn for the worse when Kanye got some really bad press about some comments that he made on Twitter and on Instagram. So poor Lucas realized that he should research before he invests time and money in anything or anyone. He could have looked into the artist first before he spent his hard-earned money. But, you know, you have to be really careful about these things because now, you know, a lot of times when you buy fan merchandise or fan merch, sometimes it can be worth more money later on, that kind of thing. Well, when that whole thing jumped off with Kanye, the value of his things went down. Just saying. So you have to be really super careful. And that's just, in my opinion, just a dumb thing. Unless everything is taken care of, everything's paid for, like, why are you spending money on, like, worshiping somebody? I don't get it. So it's important. I said all this to say, gave you those examples to say that to understand how important financial literacy is. It's critical that we need to hone in if we want to achieve financial stability. It's essential. Take responsibility for your future. Do your research. Invest wisely and always have a backup plan. The stories that I told you just now are just a few examples of how mistakes in money management can lead to devastating consequences. However, the lessons learned can provide valuable insights to help others avoid making the same mistakes, even when navigating the world of finance. So stay smart, stay informed, and stay financially savvy. And I would highly recommend, if you don't follow me on @Money Talk with Mel, follow me on Melanie Collette Presents How Money Works, because I give very solid, very practical personal finance tips, blogs, articles, that kind of stuff. You should check it out. And it's also a website, Melanie Collette Presents How Money Works. You should check it out. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie, and we'll be back with Peter Ticktin.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Unemployed or underemployed? Have no fear, the TaxMama is here. Fuel your best career move with TaxMama. TaxMama can help you become an IRS enrolled agent with our next live 6-month course beginning in May 2023. Or you can start now with on-demand courses. It's your career on your schedule. Job opportunities are plentiful. TaxMama offers unlimited access to her tax mentoring portal with all the testing materials you need to overcome any test anxiety. Get your 3-year tax education in 6 months and become an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama. Visit irsexams.school. That's irsexams.school now to get your best career started today.
This is important because it's your money. Your money. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Welcome back to the second hour of Money Talk with Melanie. In this hour, we're joined by attorney Peter Ticktin. He is the founder and managing partner at Ticktin Law Group. He is going to unravel the complexities of the Trump indictment, how two truths can be, you can have two truths at the same time. Should be a very interesting conversation. Peter Ticktin is the founder and managing partner of Ticktin Law Group, and he is a courtroom lawyer in South Florida, though he has handled cases in many states in both the state systems and the federal courts. As a law student, he received a major scholarship, graduated cum laude, and was elected into the Order of the Coif, which is U.S. law school equivalent of Phi Beta Kappa Ki, and ultimately scored sufficiently high on his bar exams that the course he took used his name and score in its advertising. Wow. Since his admission to the Florida bar in 1991, Mr. Ticktin has led the fight in regard to HIV litigation in the early 1990s and has been a champion of the little guy and gal against discrimination and for small businesses throughout. Lately, he was the one who unearthed the robo-signers in the mortgage foreclosure field, providing all the state's attorney generals with what they needed to win a $30 billion settlement with the banks. And without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the show Peter Ticktin.
Well, hi, Melanie. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I'm not complaining. I have nothing to complain about. Let's put it that way.
That's excellent. You can have 34 indictments like President Trump. So you're
No. Well, you know something. I take it back. I do have something to complain about.
Oh, you do? Oh, wait a minute. You do have something to complain about. So I'm really excited.
34 counts of an indictment.
Yes.
By these.
It seems like
guys.
a lot. Seems like a lot.
It's I look at the thing a little bit differently than a lot of other people because, I know that you're looking at, to me, I'm a lawyer, so you're thinking I'm going to drill down and be able to analyze the case and give you all kinds of information. But really, the bottom line of the case is that it's baloney.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, and I thought it was baloney.
Yeah, I mean, they're out to get them, so they look for ways of doing it, which is, exactly what America is not supposed to be. Where you target somebody and then you put one justice system or another against that person. This is Stalin who said, "Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime."
Yep.
And and in this case, this is exactly what they're doing. But, I look at it from 30,000 feet rather than looking at it in terms of the details. And, what I have to say may sound a little bit crazy to you, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I'm just going to give it to you straight.
I like it. Please do.
Okay. Well, we've been taken over. And, you may and may not think or know whether the election of 2020 was manipulated or not. For 9 months, I was basically responsible for marshaling information and evidence, and I've seen enough evidence that I know what the truth is.
Now, that is interesting because I will tell you, and my listeners know that I'm a partisan. Like, I don't keep that a secret at all. They know what side of the aisle I'm on. My show has a conservative worldview, which I'm very open about. But I try to be fair. And I've been on the fence on the election on 2020 because I felt like I didn't know enough to say for sure.
Well, then, let me put it to you this way. Bless you, because you are mentally intact. Most people,
wait a minute, I'm going to record that for all my friends. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, because I'm mentally intact. Yes.
Yes, because most people, they don't have the advantage that I had to be able to actually look at all this evidence of the election and of of what happened on January 6th. So, they didn't see, Roseanne Boylan getting beaten to death by a police lady that was out of her mind with anger and hitting her over and over again with a stick. They didn't get to see the committee this bunch of lefties that are in the federal government that are organized, and 6 months before the election, we're meeting on Zoom, and there was an infiltrator. So basically, there's a video of the Zoom screen showing them organizing January 6th, 6 months before the election. See, there's a lot of things that people don't actually get to see. You get to hear news commentators, and because you hear news commentators, you believe what they're saying, because you don't. Who has the time? Who has the energy? Who has the resources to be able to do their own investigations of the things that they hear about on the news?
That's exactly right. And, mainstream media absolutely relies on that fact. They rely on, people just being concerned about taking care of their family and staying safe, and not the minutia that would go into figuring out the truth behind an investigation that I would imagine is pretty complex.
Yeah, with many, many, many moving parts. So because January 6th was part of the election takeover. It was hand in hand. And, you hear people criticize 2,000 Mules, which was just a wonderful piece of work.
Yes.
If you've seen it, And the fact of the matter is that most of those jurisdictions, exactly what was going on was illegal. It's not something that the Republicans are going to be able to compete on the same level doing the illegal activity, but we can go closer to the line because we just have to make sure we don't go over the line. And because, look, let's face it, if we get to be like them, then what's the sense?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Then we're just them. So you're saying that a lot of the things that took place were illegal. What do you attribute to the lack of prosecution for people who are doing things that are illegal?
It's all part of one major philosophy that is taking over, and it's to a great extent the one thing that unites them and basically underlines what's going on has to do with their belief in global warming. And because, the world, I know this is not going to be accepted by a lot of people that are listening to this.
Oh, in my market, it probably will be.
Okay. Well, the fact is, the conservatives, the Republicans are in denial of global warming, and the left are completely nuts about it. And anybody who operates out of fear usually operates in stupid ways, and that's what they're very fearful of it, and they're operating in stupid ways. Part of their Great Green Plan at the beginning was to actually dig a tunnel to Hawaii, so they didn't have to have jets burning fuel.
Wow.
These people are stupid.
Well, so this the market where 98.7 The Coast is, where we are live right now, is a coastal shore community. And, so we've been, and it's the same community. I don't know if you recall when Congressman Van Drew very infamously, I guess if you ask a lefty, but very famously switched parties to the Democrat Party. That I live in his district. So nobody who lives in his district was surprised that he switched because, Democrats have just seemed to, from a policy perspective, move so far left. But we're very concerned. I said all that to say that in this market, we're very concerned about the green energy agenda. And what we're going through now is Governor Murphy having, by executive order, trying to build all of these windmills all along the coast. And we have like 5 beaches in our area, and he wants to put windmills in water. It's insane. It's killing whales. Like that area that you're hearing in the news where whales and dolphins are dying, that's where I live. So
I understand a lot of that has got to do also with the prospecting for good places to put more.
Yes.
Where they're putting these sounds down to be able to figure out the seabed.
That's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Right. So, I said all that to say that this area, we get it. Trust me, we get it. And anybody who listens to my show as a podcast, they get it.
Okay, so then take a look at that mentality and multiply it by 1,000. And, then where are they taking this and how far are they taking it? And when you hear people like AOC saying that we have 10 years before we're all going to die, okay? Now, this woman, I'm looking for a way to describe her that I can say in public.
That can be accurate, but not super mean.
That just won't be bleeped out. But I mean,
you don't get bleeped, please. Don't get bleeped.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. She doesn't know something from her elbow.
Oh yes. She does not.
No, because what the real understanding of those people is that in 10 years it'll be past the point of no return. But that doesn't mean everybody dies in 10 years. I mean, she's got a completely, she's a frightened person. The need and to take over, and also the needs of China are involved in this as well.
Certainly. And
so whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it the New World Order, if you want to call it the World Economic Forum, there's many different layers of it, and there's many different organizations that are part of it, many different individuals that are all part of it, and they are as righteous as we are on the right because they are saving the world.
Yes, and they really, truly believe that, like in their whole hearts.
Right. But see, that's the difference between somebody like Donald Trump, who cares about the people that are on the planet, as opposed, especially those in the United States, as opposed to, let's say, I don't know that Biden actually has a thought. So, I mean, he's controlled. I mean, they say he's
that's pretty clear.
He's worse than a puppet. Okay. Anyway, you take that mentality, and they're not caring about the people that are on the world. They're caring about the world itself, the globe itself, and they have a point that is true in science, that if we get past the point of no return and we get there quickly and so on, ultimately the planet will not be able to support human life, or maybe not any mammals, maybe not even reptiles. We don't know how far this would go. We do know that the Earth warmed 5 degrees about 250 million years ago, and that warmed the Earth enough so that the oceans warmed, and the methane that was at the bottom of the oceans, then even though there's so much pressure on the methane, which, you got to look at pressure and as well as temperature for when things boil off. So we went up another 5 degrees centigrade or Celsius. And as a result, there was hardly any life on Earth at all after that. It's, just the bacteria that were in the fissures of the bottom of the ocean, which were bubbling up as volcanic outlets. But in any event, I mean, that's 250 million years ago. That was before I was born.
Right. A little bit before I was born as well.
Yeah.
But so, I don't know. For me, it's a hubris. I mean, I anybody who listens to my show knows I am a professed Christian, and I just do not believe that God would just allow man to destroy what he created. That's my belief. That's a hill that I will absolutely die on. I think, climate change is a real thing, but probably also cyclical and part of the plan. That's what I believe. That's where I stand.
Right, and I believe
on that issue.
I believe that he gives us choice.
Sure.
And that choice, can make a heaven of hell or a hell of heaven. And these people they think that they're going to save the planet. And what they are doing is, the emergency of it is so great that they needed to take over the American government.
But I understand what you're saying, but why do they not understand the part of history where, like I've told young people, I've heard this before. It was on Time magazine 40 years ago. We were all going to die in 10 years, but that time we were going to freeze to death.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, I would tell you that the thing I want to get across is that we started the whole conversation talking about the 34 different charges that have been laid by a prosecutor. This fellow Alvin, the name of a chipmunk that I seen when I was a kid.
Yes.
Alvin Bragg. Alvin Bragg was basically put in place by Soros money.
Yes.
And that's the same money as the New World Order. That's the same money that put Biden in power. That's the same money as it's the left. And it's not disorganized. Different parts of it are organized in different ways, but it's a real thing. And so this is part and parcel of what needs to be done in order to secure power.
So do you think with this Trump indictment, which is pretty, when you have people on the left side of the media scale saying it's a nothing burger, when you were hearing them like sigh with disappointment, I mean, they almost looked as sad as they looked when Trump won in 2016. When you hear them saying that, like, do you truly think, like, especially in your legal opinion, you've seen more than the average person as far as the evidence and things like that are concerned? Is there a real possibility that he'll get convicted? What's your legal opinion on that?
Well, you know how they say you can indict a ham sandwich.
Yes. Yes.
Well, you take a New York jury, a New York prosecutor, New York enthusiasm, and anything can happen. But Donald Trump does have really good lawyers, and they're somewhat optimistic that they're going to be able to get some fairness out of the juries of New York. So not as bad as what we're seeing going on in Washington, D.C. But there is that problem of the fact that the judge is left-leaning. He's already leaned left. He is left. And the jury pool is the New York jury pool, where they conjure up and make all this hatred for Donald Trump, which, I've known Donald Trump since I was 15. And I lived with him when we were 17.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that year we were both in the same barrack section together and in the New York Military Academy. He was my captain. He made me a platoon sergeant. And I got to tell you, this is one of the most wonderful people I've ever known in my life. Even back then when we were 17, that's the way he was. I mean, I don't know that you can imagine, but always sensitive and concerned about his, we were boys, but we called ourselves men. Hey, men, follow me, that kind of thing.
Right.
But just to give you an example, like mail call, right? Because every day he would pass out the mail. Everybody would gather, and we had cadets going up the steps and down the hallway because it's kind of like arranged that way. It's hard to explain exactly, but everybody's there, and it's not just a matter of handing out the mail for him. For anybody else, it would have been just a matter of handing out the mail. But he was sensitive to the few cadets whose parents hadn't sent anything for 3 months or for 6 weeks or for 5 days, whatever. He remembered who and what. And he'd always have just those little few buzzwords that would kind of make somebody feel a lot better when they're the guys that have been abandoned by their parents. That kind of thing. I mean, and that's just an example because it was pervasive. This is the way the man it was when he was 17. That's the way he is now.
I am really glad to hear this side of the story. We have 1 minute left to break, but you're offering a lot of insight, and I do think that people are complex. Right? We're multifaceted, all of us. And many of us, if we were to be caught when we were angry, if we were to be caught in our worst moments, if we were to be caught in a private conversation, saying something to a friend, that it would not reflect very well on us. But people that know us as individuals will say, no, that person's, not like that. So I think these kinds of insights are really important, and I appreciate you making those comments. We're going to go to break real quick, and when we come back, I want to talk more about kind of the overall plan with the indictments. I really want to know whether or not you think that this is, if the whole goal is to just deny him, is to make sure he doesn't get elected, to create a distraction. Is it more than that? I really would like to hear your thoughts on this. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. We're talking to lawyer Peter Ticktin. I want to make sure I got that right. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Money Talk with Melanie features entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
What would you say if I told you becoming an IRS enrolled agent is just a keystroke away? It is, with the professional education provided by the TaxMama. Yes, the TaxMama offers both live and self-study tax courses to get your new lucrative career off the ground. It's your life, your schedule. Seize the opportunity to excel with the TaxMama. Right now, visit irsexams.school and discover your path towards becoming a respected tax professional. Tax law, tax practice, it's all covered, along with all of the study tools you need. The TaxMama is here for your new career. Visit irsexams.school and launch your career today.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Guest interviews include entrepreneurs, CEOs, and politicos who are experts in their fields. Be sure to listen up. This is important because it's your money. Your money. Be sure to listen to Money Talk with Melanie. Money Talk with Melanie. Wednesdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time on 98.7 The Coast.
Money Talk with Melanie is brought to you by the TaxMama, Eva Rosenberg. Visit TaxMama.com.
And welcome back to Money Talk with Melanie. Our guest this hour is Peter Ticktin, and we're talking to him about the Trump indictment and what's going on with that from a legal perspective. And, I was wondering during the break, there are many people who would argue that because of President Trump's behavior, that's why he deserves to be legally harassed, that his business practices have been questionable. I completely disagree with that sentiment, and I was wondering what you thought about that.
You're looking at a man who the left, remember Strzok, who wrote in his text to his lover, to his lovebird friend?
Yes, his girlfriend?
Yes, he wrote to her that, thank God, or whatever, there's an insurance policy. I don't think they mentioned God, but they talked about an insurance policy. And nobody really looked at that and thought, well, what is that insurance policy? I'll tell you exactly what the insurance policy was. The insurance policy was that they thought that they were dealing with somebody that must have done things to break the law. Do you remember who George Bernard Shaw was?
Sure, yes.
Yeah. Well, he's the guy that wrote the play Pygmalion, which was later made into My Fair Lady with music. And he had a lot of funny things to say. One thing he said is, youth is wasted on the young. But one thing that he said that I think you're going to find very true is he's talking about liars, and he said the punishment of a liar is not in the least that he cannot be believed, but rather that he cannot believe others.
Yes.
The point is that what we do is we each have a prism, and we look at life and look at society and everybody else through that prism. And that prism reflects who we are.
Yep.
So if you're a liar, you just think everybody else is like you, and therefore they're going to react the way you act, and they're going to do what you do, and they're going to be a liar too. And if you're a person that doesn't mind breaking the law and stepping over the line and getting yourself in potential trouble or whatever, then you probably think everybody does that.
That is 150% right. I say it all the time. I'm like, why would that person think that? I'm like, you know why they think that? Because that's how they are.
That's how they are. So the thing is, the insurance policy was that they were going to be able to have an investigation. The Mueller investigation, they were not looking for Russian collusion, because there was none. There was none, and they knew there was none.
Right.
They were looking for him stealing money, doing something through his business practices that were illegal. They were looking for criminal activity, and they figured he has to be like they are. He's going to be guilty, and they have an insurance policy because they're going to be able to find it. What they didn't know was not everybody's like they are. Donald Trump happens to be a really clean guy. He's a choir boy. This is not a guy who breaks the law. He does. First of all, when you're a billionaire, you don't have to do anything like that for money.
Right.
Right. And I just know this man, and there's no way he thinks that he wants. He doesn't talk about, hey, let me lie in court. Let me do this. The guy is as straight as an arrow. He doesn't go over the line. There are a lot of people, they'll sell marijuana rather than just be honest and sell T-shirts. In the old days when it was serious criminal offenses, they were doing it for the thrill of it. Donald Trump doesn't get the thrill out of doing things illegally, so he doesn't have any motive or any modus operandi or anything else that makes him the kind of person that they thought they were going to be able to get. And it's true with this stuff. He's innocent. He's always been an innocent person because, that's not the stuff he does. That's not what interests him. He's got other things to do. And, if somebody thinks that they can think like Donald Trump, that's almost like, look, I'm close to the man, since we're 15. I know him and, I deal with him. And the thing is, though, to think like him would be like being able to understand by somebody explaining to you what the taste of an orange tastes like if you never tasted one.
That makes a lot. And see, that makes sense. And I was listening to him being interviewed last night, and he was talking about President Xi in China. And he was talking about how much he admired how smart President Xi is. Now, President Xi can be super evil and a communist and still be brilliant. But I think that you have to have a non-emotional, objective kind of mind to understand why he would say that.
I think so. And what we can get out of it is one thing, how he thinks of it and exactly how his mind works. I'm telling you, he's a very unique person. And we won't know. You won't, if you have somebody that's got mental issues, you don't know how they think.
Right.
You never be able to figure it out. It's not just Donald Trump, but it's people that are different than you. You don't know how they think because you're not them.
And when you hear him go on and on about how like these people are sick, the way that they think, it's because I think he seems legitimately like, what is wrong with these people? And I find myself, I'm much more diplomatic than he is, but I find myself thinking the same thing many times. I'm like, I don't disagree with him on that. I wouldn't have articulated it that way, but I don't disagree with what he's saying.
Look at the craziness. 10 years ago, I don't think there was anybody that would have said an open border or letting everybody come in, that's okay. Everybody would have thought that was crazy because it is crazy. Okay.
Well, even those on the left side of the aisle thought it was crazy. They also thought abortion should be rare, right? Should be legal and rare is what they used to say. Now they're like, oh, after the baby's born, maybe we decide if we keep it. Like, no, they have gone completely off the deep end. This one portion, in my opinion, I think you have crazies on both sides, in my opinion. But I really think what happened, and I don't know if you agree with this, is that when Barack Obama became president, he shifted the entire party to the left.
For sure he did.
You know what I mean? And I think President Trump did something similar to the Republican Party, and now we have all this divisiveness. But I think the mistake and the impetus was, when Barack Obama got elected, people falsely, not me, I'm not people, thought that now the country would be unified, and literally because of the kind of president he was, in my opinion, is why we're not. And that was the impetus for having someone with the demeanor of a President Trump and saying, trying to shove us back in the middle, because he's no conservative, truth be told. His policies are, but he's very moderate. In my opinion, anyway. I think he's pretty moderate. He's spent a lot of money, so that, if you look at it, it's like, dude, you're spending a lot of money. But he's not, in my opinion, like a super conservative, but compared to a Barack Obama, well, sure.
No, I tell you something. I look at the world from, most people being good and those few extremes being evil. I'm very concerned about both Barack Obama and Biden in terms of, where their allegiances really were. The reason I'm very suspicious about Biden is because senators do not have access to take documents home and bring them to their garage and keep them in their car. The way it works with senators is that for those classified documents that they have to review, they go into a very special room.
The SCIF, right?
Yeah. And they don't, nobody can communicate with them.
And you're supposed to sign the stuff out. You're supposed to, don't you sign something on your way out saying, I don't have anything on me or something like that?
No, it's more than that. They watch you. You're watching your cell phone, anything that could take a picture is not there, and so on. So it's very, very intense that way. And then if you're a senator in your office and there's going to be a committee meeting that's going to discuss something, then there is a mechanism where a very special kind of messenger will come into your office. Everybody has to leave. The messenger stands over you. You go over the document, you read it, and then you give it back to the man. And nobody has an ability to take those documents and put them in the garage except for the President of the United States.
So you're saying that maybe Barack Obama had to have helped him with that. Otherwise, how would he have access?
What I'm saying is, I cannot tell you. I don't have evidence to prove it that either one of these men are sold out to China. But I can tell you this: if Biden were completely sold out to China, his actions would be about the same as what he's doing now.
Well, because how do you explain? And I was speaking to a national defense expert yesterday. How do you explain him allowing that balloon to do that surveillance all the way across the country? and literally they don't say anything until some citizen is just like, yo, guys, what's that? You know what I mean? Like, how do you let that happen?
Well, that's nothing. That could just be plain stupidity. But how do you leave the border of the southern border of our country open, where we now know that many Chinese, maybe Chinese infantry, could even be coming in? How do we know that? How is it that we leave Afghanistan in such a way where we basically give that airfield over to the Chinese, the one that's just miles away from where they make their nuclear weapons?
How do we let them buy up land in the United States near our military installations? How do we do that?
Right.
I don't I don't get it.
I don't get it either. But I got to tell you this: in America, we're weak, we're thoughtful, we're good. We don't have hate. But hate, there's a place for hate. There's a reason we have it. There's a reason that porcupines have quills. And there's a reason that we have an ability to become indignant and to be able to stand up for ourselves and fight. I got to tell you, we wouldn't have won World War II if our troops were unable to murder and kill. You have to hate in order to kill. We had names for people. We called them Japs. We had this. I'm not advocating for hate because, I believe, like you do, that hate is like drinking a cup of poison.
Sure,
the other person dies from it.
Yep.
It's not something I think that we're advocating. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because we're only 4% of the population of the earth. The other 96% of the population of the earth are not like us. And if you want a good example of somebody who has hate in his heart, who doesn't mind killing people, look at Putin. Who would have
Absolutely, yeah.
Who would have imagined that this leader, in the 21st century, has no problem in basically bombing apartment buildings and killing children and killing people the way he's doing it? It's because that's the way they are. So if you want to think about Xi in China and what a nice smile he has as he sits there and talks to people, I got to tell you something. This man is as much evil as Putin is. They would not have a problem killing a lot of people if it suited their needs or their wants.
I think you're 100% right about that. And I mean, think of how much President Trump runs his mouth, right? And think of how much that he must know that those other people are into that he can't say. I think about that all the time. I wonder to myself, is Joe Biden's calculus here that I'll be dead by the time any of this comes to fruition, that I'm doing all of this bad stuff that I'm doing with China? Like, is that what the calculus is? I'm always thinking, what is he doing? What is he doing?
How many millions of dollars, how many tens of millions, how many hundreds of millions, for all we know, does Barack Obama have right now? And how the heck did he get that kind of money? And how the heck did Biden get the money that he got? We're looking at people that are criminals. We know that Biden's a criminal. I mean, we know that from the Hunter Biden laptop. So if these, I got to tell you, remember, Donald Trump and I were both born within a year of World War II. And I remember discussions when I was a kid, at a time when people had air raid sirens going and
right.
Air raid drills, and you had to get under your desks and so on. I mean, that's the world that he and I come from. And, at that point, I remember that there was this discussion, because in those days, people would come over to your house for a party, but we didn't even have real phonographs or whatever. There were no records being played and so on. They weren't dancing. They would get into discussions. The women would go into the kitchen area or whatever, and the men would go into another room, maybe even smoke cigars or whatever. And as a little boy, I went with the men. And I listened. And I remember this discussion. It was a hot discussion, and they trying to figure out what went wrong with Germany and what caused World War II. Because
right.
That's the way people were thinking in those days. And they came to a conclusion. I remember that conclusion. And the conclusion was they let the criminals take over. Once the criminals ran the government, it was over. And right now, we have a criminal that's running the government.
Yep. I tend to agree with you. So you say that we have 2 minutes left. I just want to make sure I nailed this point down. So you say that President Trump has good lawyers that are pretty optimistic, right, about what's going down. Do you think he can he still? Do you think they would give him time? How would that even work if, God forbid?
You know what? I can't even wrap my head around that.
I hear you.
They would love that because there would then be an uprising, and they'd be able to put the uprising down, and that would be the end of all freedoms.
You know what? And that is exactly what I've said to a friend of mine. I said they are hell-bent on a war. That is really what I think that they want. It's got to be. There's no other explanation for the way they're acting. I don't understand it. But
right.
Where can people follow you in your commentary and keep up with your media hits so they can hear you talk like you just did on Money Talk with Melanie?
Well, I'll tell you, there is a Facebook page for me, Peter Ticktin, Ticktin, like TikTok, but Ticktin, and not like the TikTok that we want to get rid of, but Ticktin, like a clock ticking, Ticktin.
Yes.
Also, it's legalbrains.com.
Yes, very nice website, by the way. And I tagged you in the ad for this evening. And when the podcast comes up, I'll be sure to tag you so you can go ahead and share. And just very good information and interesting stories about 45. I appreciate it very much.
It's truly my pleasure. It's really great being on your show.
Yes, have a great night, Peter.
Thank you. You too.
Money Talk with Melanie features lively discussions of a wide range of global, domestic, and kitchen table financial topics. Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
Want a dependable career instead of a job? TaxMama is here for you. You can become an IRS enrolled agent and learn everything there is to know about tax practice and law with the TaxMama. Right now, log on to irsexams.school to explore a sample class. The TaxMama IRS enrolled agent course is accredited by the Internal Revenue Service for continuing education and may be paid by unemployment or social services agencies. Why wait? Don't just get a job. Get a career by becoming an IRS enrolled agent through the TaxMama today. Visit irsexams.school now.
Money Talk with Melanie on 98.7 The Coast.
And welcome back. I want to thank everyone for listening this evening. I'd also like to thank my guests, Bill Westrom and Peter Ticktin, for your commentary this evening. I want to thank Mark on the boards. Wonderful job as usual, even though clearly I don't listen to you and you're giving me the 1 minute, 1 minute from commercial sign. If you want to know what that's about, make sure you listen to the podcast. I also want to thank our sponsor, Eva Rosenberg, a.k.a. the TaxMama. Thank you very much for sponsoring Money Talk with Melanie. Be sure to tune into Money Talk with Melanie next Wednesday for an intriguing episode featuring national defense expert and author of China Rising, The Case for Containment, and host of the Common Sense Defense podcast, Ptolemy Pruden. Remember, all of this is important because after all, it's your money.